Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Driving Digital Stand-Up, my YouTube channel formerly called 5 Minutes with NY Ike. If you visit the URL above, you'll see an intro video about the name change and what this new channel is going to be offering. Now, this is my first episode of the Who Are the Digital Trailblazers interview series. I'm really excited to introduce you to Helen Knight and talk about tech for good, how IT leaders can impact nonprofits.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode. And hello, Helen Knight, and thank you for joining me.
I'm always happy to join you. Happy to have this conversation, Isaac.
Helen Knight is a consultant in the nonprofit space, and I've known Helen for a number of years. She is one of the chief digital trailblazers that I had in mind when I wrote the book, backdrop of somebody who's really driving change in their space and how important is that in nonprofit. I just saw you speak, amazing keynote. You really got to see Helen speak about the role of IT and CIOs in nonprofits. And you told this amazing story about turning $200,000 of investment into, was it $5 million in return?
5 million, yeah.
Okay, so do that in real, in numbers, whatever magnitude you want, from 200,000 to 5 million or 2 million to 50 million. It's a big multiple there. Tell me the story behind that.
Absolutely. It was a nonprofit who had 7 people working full-time to manage 5,000 volunteers. All they wanted was a single shared calendar. But as I was interviewing each of them and thinking about their problems and the challenges that they were facing, I mean, it was kind of almost chaos. They were solving everything with spreadsheets, with free software, with donated hardware. They had a pretty tough gig, and the facility was open 24 hours a day. So they really needed a lot more coverage than they had. I was able to build a business case to convince the governing board to invest $200,000. And with that investment, I built a relationship management tool for the volunteers that really took the burden off that 7-person team and surfaced the work onto the internet so that the volunteer would self-register. They would upload their police check, they would upload their ID, their evidence of education, and they would take the onboarding, sign all the policies, and then self-register.
Right.
By taking that entire administrative burden off of those 7 people and putting it onto the volunteer, did a couple of things. The volunteer was proving that they had that technical acumen and that compassion and that drive to actually go all the way through and take that burden on. So we were getting really great volunteers out at the end. And it returned 20 hours for every single person, every single week in that department. So that's 20 hours times 7 people every week. They used that time to reinvest in relationship management. Now they had a system that told them who was coming in, what sort of volunteers were they. There was never any confusion with 2 groups coming on one day that, you know, maybe we're in competitive industries and nobody the next day. So it streamlined everything and it returned that time to the team. By focusing on relationship management, that team was able to identify new donors, new relationships. And the following year, with the success of this system, they made $5 million additional in donations. They also doubled the number of volunteers from 5,000 to 10,000. But the most meaningful thing, and the thing that I'm trying to work with all nonprofits to understand and recognize when you put in a world-class system, is it magnifies the output of the mission. So the social workers suddenly had the funding and the staffing to focus on their area of expertise. They housed 42% more people the following year. So hundreds of lives completely changed and saved in many ways. So that value of making the intentional investment in world-class technologies, not scrimping, cutting corners, but putting in a good quality CRM with a plan and a roadmap for the long-term vision, made mission outcome.
I love it. I mean, so many of the things that we talk about on this channel and I write about, focusing on the mission, making sure you're really working on something that's impactful, doing something that is going to move the top line up, right? Raising $5 million on top of finding efficiencies and having people do meaningful work, right? Not just repetitive work, finding real value in what they're doing day to day. amazing story. Probably the hardest thing for everybody here to realize is just how hard it is to raise $200,000 in a nonprofit dedicated to IT.
Very much.
And so that brings my second question I want to cover today. It's not like there's a flood of talent available in nonprofits in the technology and security areas. It's hard to fund. It's hard to do sustainably. There's a lot of companies giving technology to nonprofits, but to be able to run technology as a core competency, that requires people. It requires a director who sets vision, like you said, requires a staff to actually run it, and it requires a lot of technical expertise. So I'm really wondering, most of us don't work in nonprofit on a day-to-day business or as part of our jobs. How can we help nonprofits as an IT leader or a security leader?
Great question. And there's so many different ways. I mean, one of the ways that I'm really excited to get senior IT leaders involved with nonprofits is on the governance board. It's great for your career. You are making great contacts, but honestly, these governance boards for nonprofits, they don't have those technical experts. So they have, of course, they've got a CFO. They've got a couple of them. They've got some great people with great connections and donations and fundraising. But there's so many senior IT leaders out there that are just really excited about the opportunity to have a way to meaningfully give back with their expertise and getting on that governance board, taking, there's a 2-day course through the International Corporation of Directors on nonprofit leadership and bringing in your expertise on technology, and then educate the rest of the board. I mean, obviously the easy way to do that is educating them about all of the cyber risks that the nonprofit would be vulnerable to. But there's always a treasury, like a finance committee. Isn't it time that there should be a technical committee as well?
I think so, right?
Yeah, and you dig in and partner with, I understand that the board role is hands out, noses in, but work with the IT leadership. And if you don't find it because they're a third party, maybe you should work with the executive director on understanding it differently. Maybe with the business case that I talked about with that return on investment, you can share that story and make a space for a senior leader at the decision-making table, because there is an understanding that there's an executive director, that a CFO is needed and somebody in charge of fundraising, but there isn't that understanding about the value of technology yet. And so that's the work I'm trying to do. That's why I appreciate this right now, is sharing that incredible value that technologists bring to the nonprofit boards. It's good for you. It also creates that opportunity to work onto for-profit boards, which is a great retirement goal. And then with that position and that leverage that you have, make a role in the organization for IT at the decision-making table, so that the finance technology decisions aren't made just by the CFO, and the marketing team isn't just making them, because they're all in different data systems. You need to just ask a few questions and you can calculate how many hours are they spending on spreadsheets and working around having a good system.
But they don't have a lot of this expertise. That's what I get. And so if you're an IT leader, you're a CIO or a CISO, you can get involved at the board level, you can get involved as an advisory level. But if you're not, you can bring your expertise to help to bear how they actually execute, right? Roll up the sleeves and show them how to use a particular technology, or get involved in solutioning around technologies. There's just so many different opportunities, and an incredible opportunity to learn also, right? They're trying to make impactful impact in a lot of people's lives in a lot of different areas. There's 86,000 charities, you said, here just in Canada.
Yeah,
I don't know how many there are in the United
States. In the US.
100, how many?
1.5 million.
So yeah, something for everybody. And I hope you can take some lessons learned here. Helen, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
And stay tuned for our next episodes. Have a great day.